is the anniversary or feast day in the Catholic Church for St. Peter Claver. St. Peter Claver, born in 1580 in Spain, and comes from a well-to-do family, but felt a calling toward ministry. And to preface the story I'm going to tell of his life, we have to know that in 1510, Spain started importing slaves from Africa. It was primarily an economic question for them, and they felt it was a good deal, and bought them from slave traders in Africa, and thus begun the practice of slavery in the nation of Spain. This is what Peter Claver is born into, and as he is in seminary studying to become a priest, he sees what's happening in his country in the last number of years, and he's deeply, grievously concerned. In fact, he writes in one of his. I have a fly running around in my office right now, as you can see. He writes this in his journal: "I must dedicate myself to the service of God until death, on the understanding that I am like a slave." He's sent to South America, and he follows a very influential priest named Sandoval, who has a ministry to slaves that are being shipped from Africa, and when they get into the plantations, he ministers to them. But the kind of person that Peter Claver was is he literally met them when they came to the port. When the ship of slaves who'd been at sea for months packed in, he went straight into the ship and began ministering to the slaves, working with their to heal any disease or medicines or anything that he thought he could do to improve their life, beginning right there. He didn't wait for them to be sold, and he would be there at the places where they were sold as well, and follow them where the slave traders and where the buyers were, and continue to minister them. It was said of him that he, irrespective of their circumstances, he considered them already a fellow brother or sister in Christ when they arrived there. And he didn't wait for them to find a place for him to minister. He went to where they were to do his ministry. As he worked throughout his life, he toiled. He was fighting, of course, a lot of the social and political and economic convention of his time. The slaves in this area in Cartagena, Colombia, their lot grew somewhat better. More than anything, he tried to be a pastor to people who knew sometimes nothing about Jesus Christ. And by pastor, I mean he didn't just tell them about Jesus. He tried to be a pastor and help them wherever they were at, whatever their circumstances. Now, he died in great poverty after he became ill and lingered literally for years by himself, not very well cared for by anybody, passed away. The Catholic Church canonized him in 1888. He has received criticism, of course, in these modern times now, some 300 years later, because he himself owned slaves. That said, he did not own them and put them to work under hard labor. He gave them great freedom in what they did. But he did nonetheless own slaves. And if he thought he needed to punish them for perceived injustices or immoralities, he did that too. Okay, so he is human. He is a saint in the Catholic Church's eyes, but that doesn't mean he's not without faults that lie partly in the time that he lived. It's very easy to judge him, but we also have to judge ourselves on the one simple fact that he didn't wait for problems and for circumstances to show up on his doorstep, but rather he went out into the world seeking to readdress the circumstances. He said, like I said, that he felt like a slave. And because he felt like these slaves that he felt so sorry for, he was not above or apart from them. And rather, he sought them out. It becomes something for us to think about as we want to address any injustice and as we want to carry also the word of God